And tonight we're talking about King Kong from 1933. 1933.
1933.
Directed by Miriam C. Cooper and Ernest Schoedsack. So yeah, this was spine number 2 in the laserdisc Criterion Collection. If you'd like to hear history about that laserdisc collection and Criterion, I would highly recommend you check out our Citizen Kane episode, which I think is like 25 or 26, which was also our Christmas episode, where I got a book out from the library and espoused a bunch of stuff about it, being all professional and stuff. And most of it has slipped my mind, so I'm not going to recap it. You can just go back and listen to that. It's a good one.
Yep.
So, King Kong, another one of those big Warner Brothers movies that Criterion snagged back in the day for a cool 10 G's, putting it out into the world in the 80s, 83 I think it was. And now it's readily available on Blu-ray, and it probably looks much, much better, I'm assuming, than that old Laserdisc did.
Yes.
So, the plot of King Kong, if you motherfuckers don't already know, that's crazy, but I'll give you a brief summary. This is a tale of a man named Carl Denham, who is kind of loosely based on the director of Miriam C. Cooper. He's kind of like a Robert Flaherty type of guy who made his early films as like just documenting like sort of like the savage world and the outside world, and just like making travel pictures, docudramas, staging things, presenting them to the masses. And so I guess at some point Miriam C. Cooper might have thought, hey, this would make a really cool idea for a movie about like a guy like me who goes and finds a giant monster, though, because I can't do that in real life, but I can definitely make a movie about that. So that's what this movie is. A guy named Carl Denham. He's setting sail to a place called Skull Island.
Do they ever say that in this movie?
No, it's like
I was trying to figure out.
Yeah, there's no like. I can't remember where that begins.
The only time I even heard it was in Peter Jackson's one.
Is it specifically in that one? Yeah.
Oh yeah, because there's a scene you can't miss, but we'll get there. I was just wondering, like, I was trying to pinpoint when they actually called it that, and I couldn't find a spot until PJ's. So.
Well,
anyways.
But so one of the things this guy needs, though, is he needs a girl. He needs a lady to come on this ship, travel all around the world, across the Pacific, to go to this island for some filming. And which doesn't sound greasy or questionable at all. Yeah, one of his first stops, because he's got kind of a bad rep as a showman and stuff like that, not paying his bills, etc. So like none of the agents really want to like foist any of their girls on him, especially for a kind of a deal like this. He like goes into like he goes by a women's shelter.
That sums up his character really well, man. Actually.
Like that scene always, and like I love when he goes there and there's all these women standing in line and they're all like kind of like, wow, old 30s ladies, and they all talk like this, and he just kind of like, ugh, and he's just like, nah, forget this noise. And then so he goes basically down the street, and he happens to come across a girl who may or may not be trying to steal some fruit because she's starving, and the shopkeeper accuses her of thieving and starts just ripping a strip out of her, and she's like, no, please, I didn't do it. But all Carl Denham comes along. He's like, hey, well, here, I'll buy you some fruit. Hey, I got a great idea, lady. You should come on a trip with me across the seas. It's like, holy shit, this guy's like a serial killer. Like, what's the difference here? So anyway, she agrees because the movie must continue. They board that ship and they set sail. We get to meet a beautiful racist caricature of a Chinese man, and we get to meet some very enlightened views of male and feminine relationships, but women being bad luck and whatnot. It's lots of rampant sexism, but it's all charming in its era, I guess. Anyway. We get to see the captain buddy dude. They seem to be like setting up a potential romantic relationship there between our lady, played by Fay Ray, who, RJ, were you aware that she was from Cardston, Alberta?
No shit.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
And
People won't know, but just Google Cartston and then
and
you'll have fun.
actually, RJ, in Cartston, there's like a little
Mhm.
plaque. There's a little thing that's like by it's like the Fay Ray fountain, and there's this little
Yeah,
thing with like a little King Kong stencil holding her in his hand.
unbelievable. Do you want to hear something really funny?
Hmm.
One time, roommate Scott was driving through Cardston,
Yeah.
and they stopped at the diner, and he used to have like, I can't remember what it's called. I'm gonna say strombosis. I don't think that's what it is. Maybe it's stromboli.
Hmm.
But one of his eyes was a little bit wandering, and like he stopped there, and all the people in Cardston, which is a heavily Mormon community,
Hmm.
thought that he was high because his eyes were weird, and they were like giving him a lot of grief and basically made him leave. So it may be the home of Fay Ray, but they also discriminate against people with physical abnormalities, I guess.
They still
So
live. They still live in the world of reefer madness.
reefer madness, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is like I don't even understand how that could equate to being high. Like one of his eyes was like wandering, so they're like, he's high, get him out of here.
Mm-hmm. Take
So
take your rampant drug addiction to the big city.
the big city, yeah. So fun facts about Cardston tonight on the
There.
Cardston episode.
That's right.
Yeah.
So they get to the island, and they come across a ritual from the islanders.
Ooh.
And they're doing what have you. It doesn't really make any sense at this point in time. Though one thing I will mention, spoilers, this movie's about King Kong. I really love the islanders wearing the partial Kong outfits. Like they're wearing like just like huge
Gorilla
hunks
suits.
of like gorilla suits. And it's like it's really cool because you don't know like, if you were watching this movie for the very first time, you didn't really know where it was going. It would just look like nothing. But like after watching the movie again, you're like, oh yeah, they're wearing gorilla suits because it's all about Kong. Anyway, so these islanders they get a look at old Fay Ray and they're like, yeah, she'd make a great sacrifice. This like blonde, this blonde white goddess. Let's and so they make an offer like, hey, we'll give you 7 ladies for one of for the one of her. And they're like, well, no, sir, we won't be doing anything like that. And so they go back to their boat. They chill, but then the islanders come and abscond with the girl. Which of course kicks off a rescue party to go get her back, and of course they get to the island just in time for her being all tied up and set in place to be the sacrifice to this island's god, which is Kong. I don't know how many feet tall is Kong, 60, 100, something like that.
No. He's like 24 feet in this movie.
Is he only 24?
Yep.
Okay. It seems like he does change in size depending on the situation.
I checked it out. So on the island, he's around like 14, 16 or something like that.
Okay.
And then when they take him to New York, he's around 24. Because I was trying to find like Godzilla fans are way better about this. There's really nice infographics you can get where like sizes for like different years, but no such thing exists for Kong. So I had to do some of the math or figure it out through other means, but he's only like at his biggest he's only like just under 30 feet.
Okay. And so we get Kong, we get him revealed, this giant gorilla monster, and he grabs the girl and he walks off with her. And the good white heroes, they come and chase off the silly islanders, and they kind of take back the fort.
Savages.
And then that's right. And then they send some men forth into the unknown. And then we get to enjoy some good old fashioned pre-code death and mayhem. When I say pre-code, RJ, are you familiar with that term?
Not really. I know you say it a lot, but I just kind of smile and nod like I know what you're saying.
Okay.
But I don't really know.
Okay. So in brief, at one point, there was this thing that came along. It's called the Hays Code. It's kind of started 27, 28, 29. And kind of like just like the sound era kind of kicked in. And it was like kind of like this federal legislation sort of stuff, which laid out, these are the sort of things you can't show in movies. And no one really followed them at all. And so these movies, they could get away with whatever they wanted. And so you got to see, like, there's things were far more suggestive up to a point. You would actually see men and women sleep in the same bed, which is something that would cease to happen for like 20 years in like Hollywood films because they were afraid of like not being screened at all. And the movies were just way more violent. People would get gunned down and killed. Sex, violence, drugs, all that stuff was like completely in the forefront and allowed to be, because it helped sell tickets and made movies like more realistic, which is like what a novel idea. But then there was a point where things kind of receded back, and there was like a push against that sort of stuff, and so the studios just kind of followed this. So there's like that kind of like golden window from like in the sound era from like 30 to about halfway through 35, where like movies could do whatever they wanted, and like where that you would actually, they could just have nudity, they could just have like guys dying left and right. And so this is a movie that benefits from that, I think. So yeah, we got sort of the whole chase of like Kong returning to sort of his lair with Fay Wray, and then you get the backdrop of like the rescuers chasing after him, and then you get to see a bunch of monsters and crazy stuff. You get to see dinosaurs left and right, and they just kill people constantly, and you get to really enjoy the wonderful Willis O'Brien special effects, which are really pretty amazing still. So yeah, anyway, Captain catches up to the girl, saves her, brings her back to the boat. Kong chases after them. They have some chloroform that they knuckle Kong out with, and Carl Denham's like, I see an opportunity here. And so he chains up poor Kong, hauls him all the way back to New York City. And there's an exhibition showing off the giant captive ape. And one thing leads to another. Some flash bulbs involved. And Kong goes on a rampage. He kills a bunch of people. He climbs the Empire State Building. And then he is tragically killed by Spitfires. And he's dead. And Carl Denham says, well, beauty has killed the beast.
Burns.
So, King Kong is a movie that I had not seen up until, it was like, I think 2005 is when the DVD came out. This is one of those movies that I'd heard of. I'd seen, I knew of since I was a kid, and I was always like, oh, I want to see King Kong someday. But I don't know, it just never really came up. The opportunity was never really there. Finding a copy of this movie seemed like weirdly difficult to do. And so the day it came out on DVD, in like whatever it was, November of 2005, I went and bought it the day of and watched it. And I'm like, that movie's really kind of cool. And I watched it actually like only like a year or two ago when I was kind of on a pre-code movie watching kick, and I realized I hadn't watched that movie in like 10 years, and I thought this movie's pretty cool, and watching it again still holds up. Yeah, this movie is just like, I don't know, I will say that probably the first half hour, 40 minutes before like kind of Kong shows up, it's not the most exciting movie. It's lots of just characters kind of droning on the boat, and I don't know what I could really care less about the human beings. There's some, it's all just story building stuff like that. I found it's pretty typical for the era to have scenes like this play out. But then when you get to like the actual like technical special effects stuff, this stuff is so great. That Kong versus T-Rex fight scene is like still like so much better than like most like most action scenes now with like top of the line CGI and stuff like that. Like there's like actual like plotting out and like basing it in like how fights would actually play out between like as if you could imagine like, okay, this is how a fight between a 24-foot gorilla and a Tyrannosaurus Rex would play out. King Kong would get his back and he'd choke him out, get his hooks in, and then like tear his jaws apart, which is like still like so like gruesome. Like I'm like, fuck, that's so great. And like just like little moments of like Kong like playing with a broken jaw afterwards, and he was like kind of admiring his own power. It's just like, man, what great acting that all is. Stuff that just, I don't know, it gets left out, or it feels like derivative when they do it now.
I was gonna say, in watching all of them, that's definitely something that a lot of the remake people just stole. like the jaw rip and then playing with it after. They stole it too, but I think it's because in this original one it does have such an impact. Like you watch it and you're just like, fuck.
Mm-hmm.
It's super cool, man. It's gnarly.
But yeah, there's like watching this. There's like the one bit in this where it's just like I was just like contemplating every level of the production of some of its shots, because there's the one scene where Kong comes through like this kind of like cavern where like he's about to fight a sea serpent, and like I was just like looking at this thing and I was like, holy crap, like every single thing that they put together for this, like the lighting of the cave walls, and then like so that's like one layer, and then like you have this like it's like all beautiful, like it's like I don't know, like an 18th century painting of like, it's just like, oh no, it's just a move. It's a monster movie at the end of the day, and Kong's moving through the space, and then there's this like in the foreground, there's like a bubbling like pool, and then there's like a smoking crater, and then on top of all that, oh, now we're gonna have an action scene, all while this is all going on, and it looks great. Yeah, I don't know. Like, just like from like the technical standpoint and like this movie's ability to like stir up like kind of movie magic in this really basic way, it still speaks to how well crafted it was. And then on top of this like whole battle scene, there's like a bit where like Fay Wray's been rear projected into like the wall of this cavern where like Kong places her while he has this fight, and she's watching it, and it's like, holy crap. Like all these like little things, like someone actually had to build this up, whereas now you just completely take it for granted. And here it plays out so well. And it's there's I think after he like throttles that sea serpent to death, it's when he really becomes like the hero of the movie, and you're like, this guy's awesome. Like Kong is just like so much better than every human being in this movie. Because everything he does makes total sense from his perspective. So it's like, he is the hero, and and he kills a pterodactyl, because why the fuck not?
It's because all these people are fucking bugging him, like getting up in his business, and he's just like, leave me alone, fuck.
Yep, those islanders had the right idea.
Yeah.
Yep. And then I think like one scene that like I definitely was like questioning the physics of it was when Fay Wray and Captain are trying to escape down the vine, and they're down the rope, and then like Kong just is like pulling up the rope, and it's like, holy fuck, they're dead, like they're in so much trouble, and then they have to drop, and they drop, I don't know, I like to say 80 to hundreds of feet down into a nice soft landing of water underneath, because as we all know, water's like the best way to break your landing, and it's not like concrete at all. So that's always like that one's like that one's pushing it a little bit, but fuck me, I'm watching a King Kong movie, it's fine. But yeah,
it'd be great if there was a different guy there first, and he hit the water first and like broke all his legs and back, and then he like rippled the water so they could do it. But then they pulled him out, and he's just like, I can't walk, and they're like, that sucks, and then they just took off. That's what that Peter Jackson remake was missing.
Yeah. I have more to say, but RJ, what did you think of your first time watching King Kong?
I would loosely say first time, because I mean, I think it's hard for anyone to say that they haven't seen this movie. Just through like so much stuff that like copies it, and then just even actual clips I've seen like tons of. And then I'm pretty sure it was shown to me sometime when I was little, but I don't think I really knew what I was watching then. So the first time in a long time, we'll say that. I thought it was awesome. It's really well done. It is probably the most used word, but it's a marvel. Like, it's amazing what they could do in the 30s with all this stuff. Like all the visual effects is amazing. The sound stuff is really good too. Like, or in like what you were saying, like lighting and sets, like everything is great. Everything looks good. Nobody's ever questioned that. Looks awesome.
Yeah.
The story is really good, although I hate the ending. I think it's bullshit. That motherfucking Carl Denham is such a piece of shit. He's like, Beauty killed Twas Beauty killed the beast, and it's like, fuck you, man. It's like, you killed him. He's like,
that thing's blood is on your hands, Carl Denham.
Yeah, it's like, because he's a piece of shit, and he doesn't even realize that he's a piece of shit, because he's in that old mentality. He's like, well, it's all right to capture and enslave these animals for our entertainment. But yeah, you're right. Like, Kong is the hero. You definitely sympathize with him for everything because he is doing the right stuff. He saved the girl, beat up some baddies, and he was just like, leave me alone. Fuck.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Because actually, there's like one Letterboxd reviewer. I can't remember if it was maybe like Anna Imhoff or something like that. She made some comment about like her problem with like King Kong and Frankenstein is like these monsters is like she wants to be scared, and like the problem she has is like, but like you can't be like none of these things like neither of them are scary. They have such sweet eyes, and I'm like, yeah, Kong's wonderful. Like he just looks like a lovable like thing that you just like. I want to be pals with Kong, even though you shouldn't be because he will just eat you.
Well, yeah, that's a hard thing to say though too. Like it's because I think that's more of like the way people are, not as much as like what we consciously do and stuff like that. Because you identify with like human characteristics more.
Yeah.
Like when you anthropomorphize things, like when you look at a dog and you're like, oh, he's being like a people because it's super cute. So like we're like set up to look at things like that. You know what I mean? So I think it's really easy, especially with like anthropoids, like apes and stuff like that. It's really easy to just like identify with it and like mirror it. Basically, you're like, oh yeah, totally, I get with him. And Frankenstein's just a person anyways, so
Right.
I get it. But I don't like. I'm sure they play that up a little bit, but I don't think it's. I don't know. We can't help it, right? So I understand. It's like, yeah, you want to be scared, but at the same time, it's like sometimes you can't be when it's things that look like that. Unless you did like a rape gorilla movie, which is kind of like some of the later ones, but those are scary. Congo did it. Congo made them scary.
Were they rape gorillas in Congo?
No, but they were like monster, like albino ones that like tore people up.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So Congo made them. I should have watched Congo.
Oh.
I even joked about it. What the fuck? Even had an extra week and everything. Anyways,
shit.
All goes to shit. But no, yeah, I really liked it. There's some cool stuff like what you're saying, like this pre-code things is wicked. Like you see Kong, he's just like biting dudes in half. He's like stomping on dudes. Oh, yeah. And one thing I've noticed in a lot of these Kong movies is that most of like the damage done is just because people are really dumb and like they create the chaos themselves. Kong's just walking through the place. He's just chilling out, and all these people are like throwing spears at him, and he's like, "Fuck off!" So I get it, man. He's doing his best. Yeah, this movie's super cool. One thing I thought was really funny is when they first talk to the witch doctor, they say his name, and I think it's Costco. So that's a pretty good endorsement.
Yeah.
If I was Costco, I would run with that. So that's that.
Fine.
You know. One thing I thought was crazy is like, you know, that tree cliff stunt where like the tree stomp, like they're crossing it.
Oh yeah.
Those dudes are actually falling and they're hitting the ground or something because it looks fucking brutal. Like they're landing really hard on stuff.
They're like little claymations.
Okay, maybe it's a different one. There's a scene in this movie,
like when they're climbing across like the dead tree, and then like
I think it's a different one. There's a scene where dudes are like falling off of not that cliff because those ones are claymation, but it's like you see the people like impact the ground.
Yeah,
there's a scene somewhere in the movie, and that looks fucking real, and it looks like they're hitting the ground really hard.
They're doing real bumps.
Yeah, so I thought that was cool. I was like, man, these guys are really getting fucked up. Neat.
Yeah, there's like the one in like kind of like the montage of like guys just getting eaten and killed and stuff, or like the one guy who's like kind of trailing in the back as they're running away from the carnivorous brontosaurus, and the one guy decides, I think my best plot of course of action here is to climb up the tree so I'm closer to its mouth.
And it makes sense.
Yeah,
People are dumb.
Yeah, climb up that tree so you're closer to it to eat me. Yeah, love it.
People are dumb, Jarrett.
But that like the trees think when they're like running across it and then Kong's shaking it and then he tosses them all off. That is so good. Yep. Like the rampage through the village before Kong gets smoked out. It's pretty awesome. He just like he's tossing people around, devouring them. There's a baby that's like almost stomped on because Kong don't give no fucks. And then we get to New York City and the rampage there of him like looking for her
Mm-hmm.
and him like, well, was she in this subway train?
Mm-hmm.
Nope. Oh well, toss. And
Toss. Yeah.
so magnificent.
I also just like when he pulls that lady out of the window and he's like, "Are you her?" Nah. All right.
Yeah.
And he just kind of like
Wrong.
throws her over the shoulder, like whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Super cool.
Yeah, she'll be fine. She'll bounce.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that and then like man, I'm like I don't know. I'm always in awe of like of Kong climbing up the Empire State Building. That like I think that shot. I was like looking for it on Google. I'm like, where is like a shot of just that? And it's like, it seems like it's underappreciated by some. I think that's like it's like a really beautiful shot, and like it's just like a miniature of it, and in this little gorilla climbing up the side of it, and it's like so amazing. And then his death, which is super sad. It's a bummer.
Bullshit is what it is.
Yep. It's like because you know it's coming too. Because if there's like that's like the one thing that everybody knows. Even if you haven't seen that movie, because it's like so embedded in the culture, is that Kong falls at the end, and and then his corpse gets picked at by the cameraman vultures. And everyone says, "What a scoop!" And Carl Denham's like, "Well, that didn't go the way I wanted it to go."
Yeah, he's like, "Oh well, peace."
Yeah.
And then he like gets on his hoverboard and glides away.
And for a couple months, which leads us to the next movie.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
So that's about all I got to say on Kong.
Yeah, me too. It's
super cool,
super classic. One thing I will mention though is the really dark and depressing tale of Willis O'Brien, the man who brought us those amazing special effects. So Willis,
what about him?
Well, so he just started. So he's just like a guy. I mean, because no one in 1912 there was no such thing as like a special effects man in cinema, right? There was like, that wasn't a job you did. So I mean, he was just kind of like a journeyman traveling around like Seattle, going around, and he just like learned how to do stuff on his own, kind of like an autodidact, and just did jobs here or there. And then I guess like somewhere along the way, and maybe it was in Oregon or something, he met some guy, and they're like, hey, he's just like, because he saw him making some miniatures, and he's like, oh, we should do some like some miniature war gaming. So they built some stuff, and he started thinking like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if like this stuff could move, like you could like make, and then he's like, yeah, I guess you took like photographs, you could simulate like movement of these things happening. And so he started like actually doing that, and one thing led to another, and so I mean like he did the Lost World in like 1924, which was like I mean pretty groundbreaking for 1924 to like make brontosauruses moving around and dinosaurs and whatnot. And then I mean it kept going in that direction, and I mean he was like the pioneer of all this. Like I mean there would be no Ray Harryhausen without Willis O'Brien.
Yep.
But like there's like the one story though, it's like, so like I guess like his wife was like crazy. Like she went nuts, and like he kind of like split with
Hysterical?
her, something like that. So they had 2 children together, and I guess like just like the same year that King Kong came out, she murdered their 2 children and shot herself through the chest, which apparently she was also suffering from tuberculosis. But apparently when she shot herself through the chest, it actually drained the tuberculosis. So
she was better.
So she got better for a while until she died in prison like a year later.
Great.
Yeah, so it's like I always read that story. I'm like, fuck, that's dark.
It's like as sad as Phil Hartman's story, like his end.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So
that sucks.
Yeah. So Willis O'Brien got to survive that because he wasn't there at the time because his kids were living with her, so he was away. So. Yep, he got to live with that for the rest of his days, and like, I mean, it sounded like his the rest of his career was kind of compromised. Like he never got to do things the way he wanted to. Like his involvement with like Son of Kong was like cut off at the knees. The whole like I can't remember the name of the movie. The movie that he worked on prior to King Kong, that was like kind of a study for it. A lot of the effects got repurposed for Kong. And like, I mean, people always talk about Miriam C. Cooper in reference to the movie, but not Willis O'Brien. Unless you're like a big effects person that gets into all that. Yep. One fun thing that I thought was kind of, I didn't even think of until afterwards, but a lot of the same sets and cast used for this film would be used by co-director Ernest Schoedsack for very near future Criterion Creep, The Most Dangerous Game.
Really?
Yeah.
Is The Most Dangerous Game Kong?
Nope, but it's on an island, and so
Ah,
and
cool.
some actor you'll see. Yeah, so we'll be seeing a lot of this stuff again, which will be fun to say. Hey, I remember that vaguely now.
That'd
With
be
these two,
cool.
yeah. So neat. So,
Neat.
Son of Kong, which was a
Yeah.
total cash in, a mere like 5 months later, I guess, because
Uh,
Kong was a
yeah.
huge hit, a smash.
Mm-hmm.
It did a Boffo box office, and so they went, yeah, let's do a cheap knockoff
Do it
called
again.
Son of Kong. Do it again, exact same year.
Yeah.
We got that Carl Denham. So
Mm-hmm.
same actor, still awful. And this
Such a
time
piece of
he's
shit.
annoyed that people are suing him for bringing King Kong to New York and mayhem
Mm-hmm.
ensuing. He's not like I guess he kind of feels bad, but
He kind of does, but like he goes and there's a scene right at the start where he goes and looks at like a poster of King Kong.
yeah,
He's like, I sure am paying for it now. And it's like, no, you're
yeah,
not. Like,
you're
it's like
begun, you fuck.
yeah, like you kidnapped and killed like this like majestic creature that like will never live again,
Yeah,
and you're being sued by like 12 people, and you're just
yeah.
like, boy, it does sure suck to be me.
All these, yeah, exactly. All these people are dead. They're all dead in my
Yeah,
hands. And shrug. Oh well,
yeah.
why me?
Yeah,
What?
he doesn't care about any of that stuff. He's just mad.
Hmm.
He's just mad that he's getting
Hmm.
sued and like has no money now. So
Yeah, pretty much.
fuck Carl
Yeah.
Denham, man.
Yeah, so he basically he feels the heat's too much in New York. He's like having to live sort of anonymously while people like knock
Yeah.
at his door to get money out of him and complain to him, and he's just like,
Hmm.
enough of this noise. And so he boards a boat, going nowhere in particular. He's going to go make some money abroad. That's his gimmick,
Hmm.
and then maybe wait till the heat dies down. He doesn't have a lot of success though on this trip. He winds up
Right.
sort of like kind of in the same vicinity as old whatever it's called, Skull Island, or whatever that island that you found Kong on.
Hmm.
But before we get to that part, we get to see a show of sagacious seals, dancing
Oh,
monkeys.
yeah. Those
Da-
poor monkeys.
oh, those things.
Those
Um,
poor capuchins. I hope they were treated fairly.
yeah. So yeah, we actually get a dancing monkey interlude.
Hmm.
We get to see Carl Denham and his captain. They kind of are watching this, and this captain wants nothing to do with this. Carl Denham's like really feeling it, and then we get to see
Hmm.
the singing woman. Who's there stuck with her father, and her father dies in a tent fire, and
Mm.
she knows the guy that he was playing cards with had like knocked him out and it caused the fire, and so
Hmm.
he's up to no good. He's a real heel. And then they decide, hey, there's a bunch of treasure on this island, so they hear. And then Carl Denham's like, what treasure? I
Yeah.
didn't hear nothing about no treasure. So they take off to the island in search of treasure, and they meet up. It's like all the same setups. They meet the islanders there who are like, and the islanders are like, hey, what are you doing here? You can't land here. You got to go to the other side of the island. So,
Yeah.
so they do. And then it turns out there's another giant gorilla. But he's like a white gorilla, and he's
Like in Congo.
yeah, and he's like half the size of Kong,
Yeah.
and he's like but he's even cuter.
Yes.
All I really like, so my notes about this particular movie, I thought the like kind of the pitter patter chit chat style of screenwriting of the 30s was better
Yep.
here than I think in Kong. That was like the one thing I'd
Yes.
say. Like I thought the characters were a bit more lively, a bit more charming than the first go around. So that's
Hmm.
something. We don't get as many like breathtaking, amazing spectacles, but we do get
Yeah.
a gorilla versus giant bear fight, which like
Oh yeah.
is like awesome. That bear
Hmm.
is so good.
Hmm.
I'm a sucker for bears. I think they're a magical.
Is it because you are a bear?
No.
Oh,
Not
okay.
not those bears, RJ.
Oh, Shio.
So yeah, that bear fight, the headlocks and stuff, I thought were super
Yep.
cool. I like that this like baby Kong, he's like way more
Mm-hmm.
incompetent and bumbly and stuff. He actually is kind of like the abominable snowman from like the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer stop motion
Yeah, kinda.
animation. He's got the same sort of
Yeah.
facials and movements and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, they befriend this Kong. He seems to be like a pal to people, and
Mm-hmm.
he wants to hang out with the humans. He thinks they're pretty cool, and he's gonna go. It turns out like, oh yeah, so the Lying Dutchman, the guy who might have kind of killed the girl's father, he was lying about the treasure, but it turns out there was treasure on the island after all. And so they try to use Kong to like help them like steal these these jewels, and then there's an earthquake.
Yeah.
There's just like a big earthquake that like is so big that it just takes out the island. It just like it just destroys the entire island. It starts entirely sinking. There's no like an answering of like, hey, what happened to all those islanders on this island? I guess they're gone now too.
It's not important. They were savages anyways.
That's right, RJ. You're getting the right lessons from these films. And so at the end of the day, the right people get their just desserts, but not Carl Denham, because
Not Carl Denham, and you know what they do too? Spoiler alert. They fucking kill Baby Kong.
yeah, so Baby
What,
Kong,
what
so-
kind of bullshit is
and
that?
not only that, but Baby Kong. So Baby Kong, as the island is fast sinking into the ocean, Kong's making his way up to the peak of the mountain as it's sinking, and he's climbing up there with Carl Denham in hand. And then the island's sinking and sinking, and the water's going up further and further up Kong. And so Kong's like holding him up above his head so that he'll last long enough that he'll float above in his hand, and then the boat with everyone to rescue him will come and save old Carl Denham. And such bullshit. And Carl Denham lives to exploit another day, and he gets the girl for being a piece of shit.
It's so stupid, like, and yeah, the way they do that too is she's like, you know how you was gonna split it up in 4 ways? He's like, yeah, doll. He's like, what if you split it up in thirds instead? And then she like raises her eyebrows. Oh, it's so fucking stupid. I couldn't believe that ending. I was like, these motherfuckers had the balls to kill off Baby Kong.
Yeah.
Like, heartless, man. Like, ugh, it was so stupid. I hated that.
Yeah.
I hated it, Jer.
So like, yeah. So Son of Kong is. I thought it was okay for like for the era. I thought it was an enjoyable romp. It was a total cash in. There was like I said, I'm a sucker for that bear, that dancing monkey scene. I love the editing of that, like because it's just like the reaction of people like acting like they're really into it in like different ways, like where they're moved by it or like totally bored out of it or like charmed. I loved all that. I was annoyed that we did not get to see the sagacious seal. That sucked.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, like the writing of it's okay. It was just like a total generic kind of thing that if it weren't if Son of Kong was not in the title of this, I don't think anyone would give a crap about it.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, it's just like there. Yeah.
Well, and it's because like what you said, this movie came out the same year as King Kong. Like they really rushed that out, and like it showed. Like I bet even people at the time were like, whatever. But I mean, like they had to because like at that point too, like once a movie left the theater, right? Like there was no
way of seeing it until it came back through town, like that, like a particular film reel, like it feels like working the Kansas territory. You'd have to wait to like, oh, we'll see Kong again in like 2 years when it comes through.
Yeah, so like I get why they were trying to strike while it's hot, but it shows.
Yeah.
I agree. I think this movie is like it's all right. There's some cool parts, but on the whole, it's just whatever. Baby Kong comes in at the 43-minute mark of 69 minutes. So that's pretty fucking crazy. What was I gonna say? There's a really sweet joke about Russian communists about like. Everyone's like standing around. And he's like, I bet you want to get paid too now. Or he like said something about like how people just want to stand around and get paid not to work. And I thought that was funny.
Like a couple of Bolsheviks.
Bolsheviks. There you go.
Yeah.
One thing I thought was crazy was that in this movie has an opening credit where it gives like people their own title cards. And for Charlie, the cook, all it says is Chinese cook.
Yep.
Even though they address him in the movie as Charlie.
Yeah.
And in the first one, it was Charlie the Chinaman. But in this one, like they call him Charlie, but his like actual credit is just Chinese cook. So
It's
I
almost
was
like
just like, damn.
that's kind of like doing a podcast on the fly. Be
Yeah,
like,
like Chinese
we
cook.
don't have time to look it up. We'll just put Chinese cook. That's what he is, right? That's the
Hmm.
guy they got doing it that day.
But it was like he was even in the first movie.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know. That's not something I'm
Yeah.
mad about.
Oh, I know.
I was like, huh, that's
Yep.
fun.
Yep. I noticed that
So
too.
yeah, Sung Kong, it's in the middle of the road.
Yeah, it's just okay.
It's
I mean,
I.
if you were like wanting to watch King Kong stuff, I think it's like better than some.
It is better than some, that's for true.
So this is an interesting thing I was looking up around. So over in Japan, King Kong was quite popular,
You
and
don't say.
there were 3 like Japanese King Kong knockoffs that came out in the 30s.
Ooh.
And none of them exist. They were all lost films. There's
Aw.
like only like a little bit of like publicity that exists for any of these things. But yeah,
Yeah.
they were just like bombed out probably during World War II.
Fuck.
The Japanese are kind of like notorious for like having not stored their films very well for like a long period of time, and like all that stuff was being filmed on nitrate and would just explode in closets and just burst into
Hmm.
flames and it would be lost forever. And like apparently all 3 of these King Kong Japanese knockoffs got blown up. So they are lost to time, but that didn't stop them from following through when they had their own giant monster movies. Those Godzilla
Hmm.
movies come along because the 3rd film in the Godzilla franchise is Godzilla versus King Kong.
Dun, dun, dun.
Which I did not rewatch in the last 2 weeks. I'd
Me
seen
neither.
it. I'd seen it like a couple of years ago when I was doing my Godzilla marathon, watching
Right.
everything through over the course of like whatever it was, a year.
Me too.
And I mean, I found the movie, if I remember correctly, pretty skippable. I don't know about these Godzilla movies sometimes. I love the idea of these Godzilla movies, but there's so many human scenes. It's always like, oh,
Yeah.
I get it, but shut up. And
Yeah.
and the
So,
bi- and the big
yeah.
and my biggest problem with I think King Kong versus Godzilla, which carries over into King Kong Escapes, which I did watch
Hmm.
because I hadn't seen that before, is English dub. Just
Oh, right.
kills me dead. I hate English dub so much. Like whatever like seriousness that you could possibly bring to these movies, it
Right.
just goes completely flat. And it's just like, oh, this seems like a cheap knockoff rather than like a serious piece of movie. Even if you're making a King Kong movie or a Godzilla movie, I feel like watching stuff in the original language with subtitles is a much better way to experience it. And unfortunately for us in North America, King Kong versus Godzilla only exists on Blu-ray with the English dub.
Correct.
And I vaguely remember just scenes of like Kong is just like the same size as Godzilla, and
Right.
they're smashing up the same buildings that they're going to smash up for the rest of.
Pagodas.
Yep, smash them up for the rest of time.
Yeah.
Um,
So my memory of this, because I didn't watch this one either, but my memory was, I think, a little kinder than yours was. Yeah, like most Godzilla movies, that people stuff really bogs it down sometimes, especially in the next one. But I remember like because I looked up like stills of it to try to refresh my memory, and I was like, oh yeah, the fight was pretty fun, and there
Yep.
was some other cool stuff. Um, but yeah, I mean they fight, and I mean I think it's famous now that it was supposed to be Frankenstein
Right.
versus Godzilla, and then or Frankenstein King Kong, and then it didn't work, so they put Godzilla in there, and that's why King Kong is like powered by electricity because it was supposed to be Frankenstein, which is pretty neat, I guess, if people want to know.
yeah.
But no, yeah, I don't think that movie's that bad. It's better than some of the other ones in this Kong repertoire.
Yeah. So yeah, King Kong goes kaiju. But we both watched King Kong Escapes from
We sure did.
1967. This is some real matinee fare.
Oh yeah.
But you know what I love seeing a 65-foot mechanical ape do, RJ?
Manual labor.
Assisting in mining for precious elements.
Ooh, precious elements, unobtainium.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, my big note here: nothing hurts these kaiju movies like English dubs, for
Oh yeah.
me. And yeah, so these King Kong suits, they are pretty manky. Even like compared to like
Yeah.
those like 1933 effects, which are like where at times it's like rabbit fur and
Yeah.
like a guy's fingerprints literally imprinted into clay.
Yeah.
And it's like this thing is just like so shaky.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like there's like this scenes in this movie where it's like, what's the plot of this movie again? There's like a country, an evil country, like you could say it's like a North
It's
Korea
Japan.
knockoff, but it's like, well, it's set in
Yeah.
Japan, but there's like this other country that's
Yeah.
evil, and that's like all you really need to know. And it's always referred to as
Mm-hmm.
my country needs this because my country desires it. Like that sort
Yeah.
of justification. They just need this like super element that will help set them is into a superpower. The
Mm-hmm.
villain, did you catch his name of Doctor Who?
Yeah, for some reason I was trying to think of it. I thought it was Doctor Evil or something, but yeah,
Yeah.
Doctor Who has the most wretched ass haggard teeth you will ever see. Keep eyes peeled, folks. But
Yeah.
yes, yeah, Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Isn't the lady like Queen Evil or something? She's got a dumb name too.
Oh, sure. Yeah. There's something.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. So anyway, there. I don't even. So the mechanical ape breaks down, and they're like, "Well, that sucks. We better go get the real King Kong, kidnap him, and
Hmm.
get him to go and mine for the precious elements."
Right.
That's about it.
That is it.
Yep. So
King Kong Escape sucks.
yep. It's dull. It's just
Hmm.
it's a slog.
I only have one note for this movie.
Oh, what's that?
Dropkick T-Rex. Because I can't even remember now. Either the T-Rex or Kong drop kicks the other one. And that was the only thing I thought was memorable enough to actually make a note of.
Yeah, this one kind of just played in the background for me. There is the
Yeah.
bit where Doctor Who just guns down a villager dude in cold blood. Like he just
Oh
shoots
yeah,
him
that
dead.
was cool.
It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
It's like, that's pretty hardcore.
Well, the guy's like, you can't take Kong. He's our god. And he's like, oh yeah.
Bang.
He just shoots him.
And it's not even done in this way where it's like showing off like, oh, he's such a badass. It's kind of just
Yeah.
like offhanded. It's like, man, that's cool.
And then he has a line too. He's like, I own him now. He's mine. And then he like gets helicoptered away.
Yeah, there's some
Pretty fun.
there's some pretty decent shots in this one though. There's like the shot of him like walking down like the dockway or the port, I guess. It's like pretty cool looking. I always love those like Toho like water tanks that they have, like where they have like this
Oh, yeah,
whole miniature city, and then they just have this huge tank that's like, it looks huge, but it's like, well, no, the actor is just an average sized man who's like in a suit, and he has to jump into it now and walk around in it like hip deep.
We have one of those here at my place.
Oh yeah, sweet, nice.
Where we do our own reenactments.
Your own kaiju films.
Yeah, we're big fans of the Rodan series, so me and Andrew do a lot of erotic Rodan.
Ooh, there's this modern movie that came out that's like kind of a existential
Erotic?
kaiju film called Big Man Japan. I don't know if I've ever
Ooh.
mentioned this to you or not. It's like
No.
it's like it's all CGI, but like kind of
Yeah.
in this intentionally shitty way. Kind of like, do you remember that Dreamcast game, Sea Guy? What the hell's that called?
Yeah, it's Seaman.
Seaman. It kind of looks
Yeah,
like
with
that.
Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah, so it kind of like the effects in Big Man Japan look kind of like that. Like everything's sort of like off and kind of
Yeah. That
off.
sounds cool.
It's kind of neat. It's just with this sad guy who's like,
Mhm.
oh, I have to defend the city, but like he just turns into a giant Japanese man in a Japanese underwear with a giant
Awesome.
mohawk, and he has to fight these CGI monsters that he doesn't really want to fight, but he has to do it because it's like his father did it, and now he has to do it. And but he's like this like, yeah, he's a sad bastard living in this like tiny little place. He's like living is kind of subsidized, and people hate him
Yeah.
because if it weren't for him, maybe there wouldn't be any monsters and stuff like that. It's
Mhm.
pretty good. I dig that much more than King Kong Escapes, which you can just skip it.
Skip.
It-
Totally.
It just it doesn't live up to what you'd hope for. I mean, when you hear mechanical
Yeah.
ape, you go, yeah, but then it's like, oh no.
Yeah. Just Google image Mecha King Kong, and then you'll get as much satisfaction of just looking at a picture than you would the entire movie.
And you'll save the time as well.
You'll save the time.
Mhm.
Speaking of time, guess who's got to go to the bathroom
Okay, well then, that's a perfect time to have a break. After the break, we will jump into the 1970s and into Jeff Bridges' beard.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, I heard we're going to Ape Island.
Yeah, to capture a giant ape. I wish we were going to Candy Apple Island.
Candy Apple Island? What do they got there?
Apes, but they're not so big.
It is 1976. The American merchant vessel Petrox Explorer has just set sail from the port of Surabaya in search of oil. What they find will shock the world.
We may be sailing into the history books.
She's alive!
You know, maybe my luck has changed.
They will discover an uncharted island that is the home of the most incredible creature on the face of the earth. A creature called Kong. Dino De Laurentiis presents the most exciting, original motion picture event of all time. King Kong. King Kong, a fantastic adventure. Open the gate! King Kong. King Kong, unlike anything you've ever experienced before. With Jeff Bridges, Charles Grodin, and introducing Jessica Lange as the beauty who charmed the beast. And starring the eighth wonder of the world, King Kong.
And we're back. And we're continuing our Kong talk with King Kong 1976, produced by Dino De Laurentiis and directed by John Gillerman. So that King Kong franchise, it had gone dormant in North America, and Dino De Laurentiis smelled an opportunity to make a big budget movie. And this is what he made.
He made a big something.
Yeah. So this movie is definitely it's set in the 1976. It's contemporary. Big Oil is all evil, and they have a nice score that they want to pick up on that they feels on this island. Jeff Bridges is an errant university instructor from Harvard, I think, and he's a stowaway on in this meeting about going to this island, and he doesn't want these folks to go there because he studies primates, and he's saying that like all this like off-gassing isn't from oil, but it's from a giant ape that might exist from mythology. It all makes no sense at all in the movie either, but it's why we're here. And Charles Grodin, who, man, I hate Charles Grodin. Is like, I don't know. I think he's so bad as an actor. I don't know why he ever had much of a career. And he's like actively in stuff, and people are like, oh, I love Charles Grodin. But I find he's like well cast here as like a piece of shit. But I feel like he's always a piece of shit. But in a way where I'm like, I don't like him.
You don't have any affinity to those Beethoven movies or the what is it? What's that movie where Martin Short plays a little kid?
Clifford,
yeah. He's in that movie, right?
He sure is. And I didn't
that
like
movie
it.
rules.
I never liked that Kim. I don't like him now. The closest to it would be he's in the Albert Brooks movie Real Life. And he's like fine in that, but I don't know. I always feel like you could put anyone else in it and it'd be better. But anyway, so Charles Grodin, he's the bad guy. He's the evil oil executive because it's the 70s and big business is bad and they don't care about the environment. So same kind of setup is they're going on a ship, but this time they don't have a girl until later because they happen to come across a wreck that fine piece of ass Jessica Lange is on.
Yeah, she looks good.
Yep, sure does.
She looks good, man. Yeah.
So she's kind of like
the way you put it. That's gross. But, yeah.
So she, I don't know. She's kind of like a ditzy like party girl who's like she was on a boat that sank because it was a party boat, and she's like the only person who survived. She seems perfectly okay with this. Yeah. And so she just kind of tags along, and like the whole thing is like it's like, oh, we're a film crew, we're going to this island, but they're trying to cover up the fact that they're trying to find oil, so other oil companies don't find out about it. They get to the island, same kind of plot beats. There's villagers, and they're doing some performance stuff in front of a giant gate, and then they get seen, and then the villagers all go, "Hey, we want that blonde white woman," and they're like, "No, you can't trade for her." And they go back to the boat, and sure enough, the islanders come, snag her to sacrifice her to Kong. And same plot beats. Kong shows up, looking like a guy in a suit.
I thought he looked not bad, man. I thought he looked okay in this one.
Okay, we'll get to it. So the effects in this movie are Carlos Rambaldi. Who like we've brought up before on the Creeps podcast, who's done some incredible work, which I don't think this is in his best work at all, even though he like won a bunch of awards for this one and people like still talk about it really highly. I guess it's Rick Baker in the actual costume for a lot of this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
And so, I don't know, it kind of follows from that point forward with Kong, with now Jessica Lange playing the Fay Wray character. And we had some weird scenes of Kong playing with her boobs.
Yeah, I like to call this one Sexy Kong because this is where you get him at his most sexual deviant.
Erotically charged Kong.
Yeah, they turned him into a full pervert in this one. Yeah. Like, for real.
Yeah, it's kind of strange.
Yeah, it is strange. I don't know why he would be like that. I don't think gorillas are normally perverts. They should have got like a baboon or a chimp in there.
So it plays out the same way. Like everything is sort of there again. We got the tree scene where guys are falling to their death, but it doesn't look anywhere as good because they do like that really bad like overhead shot of guys falling down and disappearing as they get smaller. It looks like trash. Like it looks really bad even for like 1976, I think. The whole like Kong, like whenever he's like against those like matte backgrounds and like walking around in the environments, they don't look that great. Like it always just seems like a guy in a suit. In like the worst kind of way, like, and I just like this is like coming off of watching like King Kong Escapes, where it is that, but it makes sense in like that sort of like type of movie. In this, like this was like a big movie, like this is like them trying to like make like a summer blockbuster. And it's like, oh man, like you watch Jaws and you never think of these things at all. You just go, holy shit, Jaws is terrifying. In this, you're like, oh, this is quaint, isn't it? So yeah, they chloroform old Kong. And they ship him back, but we actually get the whole like process of him being shipped back to America inside of the oil tanker that's like emptied out for him, and that's all very sad. And him like threatening to sink the whole goddamn thing, and then like, but there's like definitely more of like a relationship that you can kind of understand between Jessica Lange and Kong here. And Jeff Bridges feel like you actually get the sense that he actually feels pretty shitty about this because he actually has like, you know, worked with primates. But at the same time, it's like the love interest there is supposed to be there, and it's like kind of like whatever. I don't really buy it at all.
Sure.
But and so yeah, there's like the whole payoff thing where it's like, oh, she's gonna come get shipped around because Charles Grodin's like, this oil business, it's no good no more. I'm gonna move on, and we're just gonna advertise. We're gonna use Kong to help advertise our oil brand. which like
makes sense to me.
Makes sense. This movie is not like Network for its tackling of I don't know, satire in any way. So anywho, I don't know. I thought that I was actually surprisingly moved in some ways by the end of this movie. I thought like everything with Kong in New York was like super effective. Like when he gets wheeled out and he's like they've put literally a crown on him and have branded him as King Kong. That shit is like pretty amazing. Like I was like, man, it's like they're really like going for this like Christ-like imagery, this like crown of thorns on this poor giant monster, and his whole escape is great, and people like kind of like not really, oh, is this part of the show? And like lines like, don't worry, those bars have been approved by the New York State, saying that they're unbreakable, and then they just get torn asunder like a half second later, and it's like, oh, isn't that a burn on New York City? And then. Yeah, the movie just kind of trots along to its inevitable demise of Kong, and Kong gets fucked up. He gets torn apart by fucking gunfire. Holy shit. Yeah. Like, I wasn't expecting that, because if that little stop motion animation that they do in 1933, it's pretty effective. He feels like he's kind of getting shot up and stuff like that, and it's like each pass of those planes just takes him down a little bit further. In this, you have like sort of like two things happening that kind of like are really effective and also take you right the hell out in some ways. Like you get the really like over the green screened in like helicopter behind Kong that is so terribly oversized to this how the size of Kong on the screen, and it's like it's too big. But then you get like those passes and you get like blood chunks just getting ripped out of him, and you're like, what the fuck are they doing to him? Like, you're like, oh my god. And then at that point the like the illusion works way more than it has for the rest of the movie. Right. We were like, oh my god, they're killing him, like he's gonna die. And then like him like landing kind of like, so instead of the Empire State Building, they're on the one of the World Trade Centers, and he like kind of half falls on the edge of it, and then he tips over and he falls all the way straight down, and like that stuff is like really well done. But yeah, so like I was very like, I don't know, pretty indifferent to this movie up until the end. I think the like last like, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes are very strong. But everything else up to that, leading up to that point, for like, even like for 70s standards of filmmaking, this is kind of not so good in like the way that like, because the same guy who directed this also directed Towering Inferno, which I've never seen, but I've heard people kind of like, I have an idea of how that movie plays out, and it's probably very similar to this. It probably looks like it's shot in the 70s, like wide angles and these casts and characters that you'll expect, and good screenplay writing and stuff like that, like good naturalistic dialogue between people. But I don't know, just something about it, just like I don't desire to watch this movie ever again, other than the ending, which I thought was really good.
Yeah. So I think we're at odds here, because I actually thought this was one of the better Kong movies, like third or fourth even. Like I actually thought this one was really good. I, like you said, I actually liked all the oil stuff. Like I was like, yeah, contemporary, makes sense. And then even like the ways that they were able to catch him and then like actually harbor him across a ship, I thought it made way more sense. Like there's scenes where they're using all their oil drilling equipment to like set a trap, and I was like, yes, that is what they would do. That makes sense. And then like Jeff Bridges is awesome. He goes full Tarzan. Jessica Lange is super good looking. She's very nice. The only thing I didn't like was like I mentioned before, sexual pervert Kong, because they really make him a perv in this, and I don't know why. But then, so I actually liked this one. I thought it was a good kind of like remake. And like they kind of changed it to their own ways. But the thing about this movie, and you kind of mentioned it, is this movie has like unexpected brutality in it. Yeah. And it comes out of fucking nowhere. So there's like a scene where in their version of like the T-Rex jaw scene, there's like this huge snake that comes up and he rips it in half. Yeah. And it's like the first scene you get with like actual violence, and it is fucking brutal. Like he rips that snake in half, and it looks like there's like real meat in there. Like they blew something up. That's Carlos Rambaldi right there for you, though. Yeah. That's like when he's in his world, is making things gruesome. gruesome. But yeah, so like that scene was crazy, and then like you said, like at the end, like I was actually really sad at the end of this one because like Kong gets fucking obliterated by like bullets, and you're just like, holy shit, like because you see like you said, chunks flying off of him.
Yeah, those helicopters are hitting him with like whatever 50 caliber like shots.
Yeah.
So he's just like blowing apart.
They blow him up, man. And then like the ending is really effective, which I noticed old Peter Jackson stole, where the cameramen climb on top of Kong's dead body. I find that is really effective. And then where it's just like the heartbeat, and it's just like his face, and he's just like dying. And
and the whole end of the movie plays with no music. Like it's like all very like quiet all of a sudden.
So the ending is super strong, but I actually liked the majority of the movie. Like I thought the oil stuff was good. Like you said, when they wheel him out, that's super fucking sad, and like, but also like really clever the way they did that.
Right.
No, I like this movie. Even the effects, like I thought the suit was fine, and the effects and stuff, I thought it was all good. So I like this movie.
Well, that's good. Yeah, well, I mean, I'd say that at the end of the day, this is still probably like, I don't know, probably the second best King Kong movie ever.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's up there. Like, Cause there's some the total stinkers.
Yeah, there's a bar that's like not that low, or it's pretty low. So yeah, this definitely is above it. I mean, like like I said, like that whole ending is like super good, and I don't know, maybe I'd like it more a second time, maybe because like also when you're watching Kong after Kong movie, it's kind of like it's the same thing over and over again. But I mean, I could be persuaded to maybe watch this again, I guess one day. But
give it time. When you're wait till you're like
Kong depraved.
I don't know. Yeah. And then watch it again. I bet it'll grow on you. And at least you won't have tainted the ending by watching King Kong Lives right after and just ruining any enjoyment you've taken from this one.
So before King Kong Lives came out, Japan further explored its love of King Kong and all things Kong by releasing a video game called Donkey Kong.
Yes. This is very true. Yeah. Donkey Kong. And then they tried to sue them, and they lost.
Yes, Universal Studios did attempt to sue them, saying, hey, you can't call it that. It's going to infringe on our copyright. And this is all documented on a Wikipedia page. Something like Universal Studios versus Nintendo. Universal lost. There's actually quite a lot of court cases around Kong because McMurray C. Cooper said he owned him, and RKO owned it. But then RKO is like bounced around a bunch. The rights went to Universal. And now they're like, it's all Warner Brothers now anyway. Yeah, it's like a weird thing. There's like Mighty Joe Young that's like in there too somewhere.
I'll be talking about that Mighty Joe Young later. Oh, okay. Don't you worry about that.
We'll save that till the end, I guess.
The end. For the knockoffs.
So anyway, there's Donkey Kong. You check out that King of Kong documentary if you want to catch up on all that. And then King Kong Lives from 1986. Dino De Laurentiis, he's like, that King Kong movie, that made me a lot of money. I think the time's right to bring back King Kong. But Dino asks the world, how do you bring back King Kong? He's dead. You shot the fuck out of him and he fell hundreds of feet to the ground. Well, turns out, folks, that Kong was only in a coma for the last 10 years. And the only thing that they've had to do is they've kept him on life support because his heart gave out. I'm assuming that means because his heart broke. And so they had to build him a new heart. And so, RJ, we get this like absolutely amazing animal surgery sequence because what happens is the thing that's been holding them back this whole time is that the blood of Kong is no good. And they're like, well, where are we going to get more Kong blood? Well, on cue, a guy just happens to come across a Lady Kong at just the right moment, and they just like knock her out with like knockout spears.
Stuff.
They just knock her out, and they haul her back to America. So we get this amazing like blood transfusion scene between giant Kongs in like oversized like medical surgery room. We get a giant IV bag with giant Kong sized like tubing and giant. Dude, I loved it. I like fuck the surgery scene of like you have like all these people in like surgery scrubs using like gigantic surgery equipment to like crack open Kong's chest. Like, oh fuck, I was just like, what in the world? Like, this is so, and this is the thing though, they're playing it completely straight. Which I think is like the only reason why it's like palatable to me. Is that it's like it's camp, but like they didn't know it was camp. Like they were like, yeah, we have all these big ideas for how we're going to do this, because the same director's back, old John Guillermin, and it's like, yeah, we're gonna have it's gonna be like it's gonna hit home. I think we're gonna have this surgery scene of saving Kong and like lowering the giant like mechanical plastic cart into his chest. Oh man! And then
the whole time I watched that, all I could think of was like, it's like they couldn't make these movies any sadder. You already feel so bad for Kong getting like kidnapped and murdered over and over again.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, you know what we should do in the next movie? We should have an entire hour of like animal captivity and surgery and animal testing, and like, you know, let's just chain them up and show how miserable they are being chained up and tested on and all that stuff. Isn't that a great idea for a fun movie for the kids?
For RJ?
Yeah, well, it's for anybody. Like, I don't know who this movie was made for.
Oh boy, yeah, we'll get there. So yeah, the surgery scene, like, it's not that long, but there's a lot of like animal captivity stuff. You don't get a lot of like, you don't get any of the fun adventure stuff that Kong movies generally have. No, you just get like hormonal rage outs from the Kongs, because they can smell each other and they know that there's another Kong nearby, and they start like getting horny and they want to like bang each other.
Sexual pervert Kong.
Yeah, he's back, baby, but now he's got a real mate that he can put his junk into. Yeah, so where does this movie go? Oh yeah, the Kongs act
Nobody
up.
knows.
They all act up. They escape. They're on the run. The government, because that's like the big thing in the 80s, is like they always like the army. They're always like foolishly getting things. There's always like a hothead army guy who really takes it personally. We get, but of course it's like there's also this thing where it's like Kongomania has hit, because everyone's like super excited about Kong, and like everyone's like, well, Kongomania has struck America, because they're all like super excited about Kong surgery. And then Kong and his lady, they go have a romantic interlude at the same time as the two humans, played by Linda Hamilton.
Sarah Connor herself.
Yeah, they have their own romantic interlude, because we always have to have
of course
people, the two hetero people get together. And there's just scenes of like people getting tied, like all these like giant gorillas like being like locked up into like silos, into like rooms and chained up. Like that seems to be like 30% of this running time, maybe more than that. We get Kong running through like kind of like a small town for a little bit, and people are like, oh shit, it's Kong, holy fuck, and they run away. And it's like supposed to be cute and charming in that like way that 80s movies were. I wrote a note that I don't remember exactly where it comes from. Definitely don't see men getting kicked in the back of the head enough. At some point, I think like some guy gets kicked in the back of the head while he's driving, so they could like take the car back from him, I think. And I was like, whoa. It's like, yeah, you don't see that too much. But sort of like martial arts movies.
Sure.
Boy, what else can I say? So the end of this fucking movie. So of course, like it's obvious that like to anyone paying attention to like anything, that female Kong got knocked up and she's now pregnant with baby Kong, and so Kong saves saves Mama Kong, and they go find a barn, a manger of some sort, and so she delivers baby Kong into the world while Kong makes his last stand once again against America, and he gets just like shot to death again. All over again. He just gets gunned down, saving baby Kong, letting baby Kong live another day. Mama Kong delivers the baby, but not before Kong can like look on his son. And this like baby Kong has just has emerged from Mama Kong's vagina like fully intact, like just like fully grown, like not fully grown, but like it's a guy.
It's like an adult gorilla.
Yeah, it's an adult gorilla walking around. No like embryonic fluid, no like tissue, no matter, just like out walking around, and it's like, oh, there he is on her belly now. He's just hanging out there, and Kong gets to see it, and it's like, oh fuck, man, this movie's got filled with so many like longing gazes between these goddamn men in gorilla suits, and it's like I said, it's played totally straight. Like it's not like it's not aware of like how idiotic it all is.
It's because it's beautiful, Jarrett. Love is beautiful.
Yeah, it sure is. So yeah, this movie is crap, but I enjoyed watching it. Is what I'm getting at.
I did not enjoy watching this movie at all. This is the worst King Kong movie that there ever was. I have nothing to say about it except they made King Kong even bigger pervert. There's a quote, bedroom eyes. Oh, actually, that's not him. There's a girl, or like a girl and a guy on a couch getting down, and the guy looks at the girl and he says something like, "He's like, you're giving me those bedroom eyes," and then he like raises his eyebrows a little bit, and King Kong's like looking at them through the window, and it's just like, what? Like, who came up with that fucking scene? Like, you couldn't make like all these movies already have like weird sexual things, and it's like you know what a real peeping Tom Kong would be like? He would be checking out them bedroom eyes, babies. So yeah, this movie sucks. I hated it. I full disclosure, like 20 minutes in, I was like, fuck it, and I think I just played Zelda on the gamepad while this movie was playing out. So
you didn't even watch it.
I watched enough, man. I saw the scene. I saw enough of this movie. I watched most of it, to be honest. But yeah, I thought this movie blew. So
I don't care.
That's my recommendation.
I'm not going to defend this one
You
too much.
can't.
I don't know. It's no other than like the scenes I already talked about, which I think are like they have to be seen to be believed because like they're so ridiculous. There's also the scene where he gets like Kong. He's like being hunted by like hillbillies. Like the hills, we're gonna get ourselves a Kong, put them on the hood of our car, and it's like, oh yeah, we all know what's going to happen to these guys. Like they're dead, and sure enough, they actually do get Kong in a valley pass that they happen to track him to, and they like dynamite him and they bury him up to his neck in rubble, and then we get like scenes where he's like putting like the hot branch up to his face and like burning like a cigarette butt onto him, and there's like the one guy's like, no, you can't do that to Kong, because he starts like having a change of heart because he's like, this is mean, and then the other guy's like, oh, we don't care, and then of course Kong just like busts out of the rocks and like just like fucking just wastes like rocks everywhere, and like half of them are dead, and then he just like winds up eating one dude and breaking him in half, and it's like, yeah, they had it coming, but it's so like there's no like you don't feel it, like it's just kind of like, all right, we don't know Kong's like really not in trouble here, right? Like he's going to dispose of the hillbillies, but it's just like we hate like this movie, like obviously it's like, oh, we hate hillbillies in the South, so we're going to kill them.
Yeah, and they have that classic line too. It's like, we gotta teach this boy here some learning, respect.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like we gotta teach him some respect to his elders, and it's like, what? Yeah, no, yeah, this movie blows. We'll let the listeners decide based on my enthusiasm for this. Please let us know what you prefer: King Kong Lives or any of the other King Kongs. You email in. You tell us your favorite Kong movie.
Fair enough. Yeah. And then I didn't watch this because I just was like, I didn't want to do it. I've seen it before, and that is Peter Jackson's King Kong.
PJ. Ooh.
But RJ, you did watch this again.
I'm dedicated, man. Yeah. I watched this fucker. So
lay it out for me.
I have. So the thing with this movie is I've never actually watched it start to finish. I never saw it in theaters.
Yep.
And then when I did watch it, it was only ever in chunks when it was playing on TV.
Yep.
So I like click to it, and then I'd watch like some action scenes, and I'd be like, all right. And then we'd go to boring stuff, and then I would just go to a different channel. This was back when cable was still a thing. So I would like flip around, and because it was a 4-hour movie, I just kind of came in and out and in and out. So I had never actually seen it start to finish. I'd seen lots of it, or all of it basically, but just never like that. So I gave it a good, honest watch.
Okay.
It's not that bad.
Yeah.
It's indulgent. It's a little self-righteous at points.
What do you mean? What do you mean it's self-righteous?
Well, Peter Jackson, like, I feel like what he thinks he's trying to show is like not like a tribute, but like he's trying to honor it. But at the same time, some of the stuff he's doing is a little pretentious. So like, as you mentioned earlier, I don't know, like, so there are things I actually do like where they're filming a movie and then the scenes they film are like scenes that actually happened in the King Kong movie, like in the first one. And I was like, oh yeah, that's neat. But then there's other stuff that happens and you're just like, oh okay. Like he kind of like takes his own liberties with like what he thinks, the way he thinks things should play out. His savages are a lot dirtier than the other ones, but I didn't write it down. I can't think of an example. I just know that's what I was thinking. There was one thing I thought was really dumb, which is he does a lot of these like kind of like slow-mo scenes, and I don't know why he does it, but so like this was the first movie I actually noticed them call it Skull Island, and our listener buddy, friend of the show, Oliver Granger, he commented that because when I logged this movie, I was like, one thing I think this movie does really well, or did good. One thing I think this movie did well was they actually looked up what a fucking gorilla looks like, because King Kong in this movie is actually a fucking gorilla. Yes. He walks like he looks like a gorilla, he walks like a gorilla, and he acts like a gorilla. He's a gorilla. Yes. Like every other movie is just like a guy who's walking upright just on 2 feet all the time. That's every other movie. So I appreciated this one at least for having a real gorilla. And I said that on Letterboxd, and friend Oliver Granger mentioned that his retort, I guess, not really a retort, but his comment back was he's like, yeah, and Peter Jackson was really good at showing how people use typewriters, because there's a moment when Adrian Brody's like writing the script and it goes into slow motion. He's like, and we're going to, and then it's like wavy slow. It's like S K U L L, and it's like all in slow motion, and it's like with like panning circular like zoom ins on like everybody's faces, and it's like really weird, and you're like, why did you do that, man? Like, and he does it a couple other times where it's like these weird slow-mo scenes, and that's kind of the stuff like I don't like. It's just like I don't even know how to describe it. Like I said, like indulgent, self-righteous, but it's just like I don't really know what he was going for. Like, does he like that stuff? Because that wasn't in the real, like the first Kong. Like I don't know why he like thought it was necessary to use these like mass slow-mo scenes. Drama. I don't know. It doesn't matter. I didn't think this movie was that bad. Yeah. It is absolutely too long. It does drag.
Because there's like the two cuts. There's the theatrical version, and then there's the extended cut.
The extended cut.
And that's like, I think that's actually, isn't it only like 3 hours and 20 minutes? But it seems like some certain podcasts keep saying it's 4 hours, and everyone just says,
everyone says 4 hours, but it's only like 3:20. And like me sitting at home, it wasn't that bad. But like if I was in a theater watching it, it would definitely be too long. Even if it wasn't the extended cut, if it was like say 2:40 or something, it's too long.
And this is like just sort of like his like post Lord of the Rings, like super indulgent extended cuts of like Return of the King that never end.
Yeah, I once tried watching that extended cut of Return of the King for 2 weeks, every night for 2 weeks, and I kept falling asleep because I couldn't watch it. Yeah. So, but no, it's long, and there are certain parts where you're just like, oh man, you don't need this stuff. Like, just cut it. Like, there's scenes where like you got Kyle Chandler, who's like the movie heartthrob. Like, he's like really like hamming it up and like looking in mirrors and stuff like that. It's like, you don't need any of that stuff. Just fucking cut it. Yeah. Like, I know you're building characters, but like it's a B character who's like not important to the movie at all. So like, I don't know, but it looks like it still looks all right. The CGI is good. I like that it is a real gorilla. Mm-hmm. It's okay. One thing I thought was good actually was they actually show like the skeletons of old tributes given to Kong. Yeah. So I thought that was pretty cool, because it was always like, what does he do with these ladies? And in those ones, it was just like, I think they just died out because he just wanted a friend. So, PJ's Kong, it's all right.
Okay. Yeah. How like all I remember from it really was that like I remember Jack Black being like really not that good.
That's a huge miscast. He is not like, as we talked about, Carl Denham is just a miserable piece of shit.
Yo.
And no one's ever said that about Jack Black. So,
yeah, that's You have to have like perhaps a John Goodman.
Get Toby Kebbell from the new one, yeah. No, yeah, just miscast for Jack Black, but it's all right.
Yeah,
it's worth watching once for sure.
Yeah, so I did that, and I was kind of like, I don't remember anything about it at all. I'll just watch the 33 version.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree. And then so now we move to the future.
To the now.
To the now, yes.
Yeah.
Because that's all I want to talk about, PJs. There's nothing left to say.
So this is like, 2 weeks after the fact, basically now.
Yeah. Still.
And so this is like a hot take now cooled. So we're talking about Kong Skull Island from this year, 2017. We saw this bad boy together at the theater.
Sure did.
It's been, like 10 days or whatever since we saw it. And it's really fading from memory rapidly.
Yep.
Let's see. It definitely made me like Godzilla more.
Yeah, I agree. That Gareth Edwards Godzilla, I've been saying this from the start. I didn't think it was that bad a movie. There's a lot of people who really hate it. I thought it was good. So, and then watching this one, I think it solidifies my opinions. I do think that one, Godzilla, is good.
Okay.
I'm going to watch that fucker again, no problem.
Okay. So, Kong Skull Island, the plot of this movie, it is a period piece set in 1973. America is pulling out of Vietnam. Samuel L. Jackson is a army dude,
ironmonger
who doesn't want to leave, but that's what orders say. A U.S. senator. He's been kind of talked into a mission using U.S. resources to go to an exploration of an island that has been suggested by John Goodman, playing himself, I guess. He's a monster hunter who has a company that he's started called Monarch. And I guess like his family was killed by a monster attack, and he's been trying to prove that monsters exist. And so he's got these coordinates that say that this Kong Skull Island, underneath it is some hollow earth, and they think that there's got to be monsters there. And so he has this whole idea that, actually it's a geographically interesting or geologically interesting place. So the American government should invest in looking in this place before the communists get there. So that's sort of the setup. Tom Hiddleston, he's hired on as a tracker, and Brie Larson is hired on as a photographer. They go to the island with like 16 helicopters to like drop seismic bombs onto the island to get readings. And then King Kong shows up. So he shows up quite quickly.
Right away.
And he just starts smashing these helicopters out of the sky. It's almost like comical, the number of like helicopters there are all of a sudden that are just there so he can just swap them away. And then so this mission is now a disaster, and now it's more of a getting off the island as quickly as possible, which is about it. And then I don't know, Samuel L. Jackson doesn't take too kindly to this like giant monster killing all his men, and so he's gonna take it out on this goddamn monster gorilla. So anyway, the two parties, they go on their own way until they reconvene, and then there's action scenes. John C. Reilly is in this movie.
He's a shining light.
And is the shining light. The only thing really worth recommending, I think, about this movie. Because I think at this point, you can tell from like the way his character was written that I think he ad-libbed a lot of stuff. And he was allowed to do whatever he kind of wanted to do, because people realize he should be allowed to do that because he's that good. Everyone else, though, I think we're really shackled with some bullshit, typical 2017 action movie screenplay stuff. And then, stuff just keeps going on. We grow more and more, I guess, like, again, we care about Kong more than anybody else in the movie, theoretically.
Right.
And then there's action scenes. There's like giant lizard monsters that live under this island, and Kong eats them before they get too big for him to deal with. Anyway, so Kong Skull Island, my thoughts on this movie were very black. This movie just, I don't know. There's so many choices. So first of all, so it's set in 1973, which I watched King Kong from 1976. And that movie definitely is set in 1976 in the way that it looks, the way the actors look, the way they are dressed, the style of filmmaking. Everything dictates, hey, this movie is 1976. Kong Skull Island is this weird like idea that some people have of what the 70s were like, and this is indicated by using really popular, obvious, cliched music from the 1970s, and it's just like dressed all over top of it. And then we get these like really like bring attention to yourself like fonts and like title drops over this action. So it's like, hey, we're gonna use like a Japanese style font here, and it's just like, why is this here? This is like Asian font to say that we're in Saigon or whatever the hell. And like the whole thing though, it's like you think that if you were going to like make this period piece, you'd have a whole attention to detail thing, and like Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson, they don't really come off as particularly like 70s ish. Like their makeup, their hair, nothing about them says, hey, these characters are from the 70s. And it's just like it's weird little things that your brain maybe just tells you that's like off, and you don't really think about it until later. But I don't know. This movie just was annoying me with like the whole conceit that it's set in the 70s, because I guess that when they're making inevitably their King Kong versus Godzilla movie, it's going to be set like 30 years in the now, and it'll be like, because now Kong can be bigger, because they make some throwaway comment about how Kong isn't fully grown yet, and so I mean that'll give him more time to grow bigger on the island before he needs to come to wherever he needs to go fight Godzilla.
Well, New Godzilla is like 500 feet tall, so this Kong is still like, I don't know, maybe what, like 100? Which is like no match for, like, the new Godzilla they made is a fucking like beast. So like they need something as big. But yeah, I think that's the only reason they made this a period piece pretty well. Yeah.
And so this Kong is also they've abandoned a real like gorilla look, and they've gone back to just a guy walking around. But it's not a man in a suit. It's like they've just literally made him like King Kong is like person. It's like person walking around, and he's just big and furry. And
so I've heard a few opinions since we watched this, because I think the first thing I said to you was just like when we got out of it was that exact comment. I was like, gorillas don't do that. They don't just walk on their back legs all the time. Like they're fat, lazy fuckers with huge pot bellies, and they walk like
they're chest heavy. Like
and they because all they do is sit around all day eating leaves and bamboo or like leaves and shit. And they walk around on their like forearms and stuff like that. And that's why I actually liked the Peter Jackson one, is because it was like, hey, they actually found a fucking gorilla. And so since then, I've heard this rebuttal about how like Kong isn't actually a gorilla. He's a monster. Yeah. And so he shouldn't look like a gorilla, which I think it's a pretty thin line. Like I think in the original King Kong, he's a gorilla. There's no doubt. Like he's a giant gorilla. He's kind of a monster, but he's a gorilla. So like, I think that's how I would do it if it was me. But I get it, I guess. But I don't really like it that they just kind of made it like whatever.
Yeah.
I prefer the gorilla. Yeah, is my point, I guess.
Okay, sure. I guess my last few things I'll say about Kong Skull Island, which like I said, I didn't like it at all, really. Is the sound of the keyboard being typed upon as I heard some of the dialogue being delivered. Lines like with old Tom looking out at the Aurora Borealis lights with Brie Larson and making the comment, why are the most dangerous places often the most beautiful? And it's like, oh my god, no one talks like this outside of like shitty movies. And there's like another scene where like Tom Hiddleston, he's the tracker, so he's just like privy to information that like no one else is, so he can just say things that are convenient to moving the plot forward, like just saying like they have no idea where they're going, and they're like looking for the one lost soldier, your favorite guy, who exists as sort of like a thing to get people to that position, and he's just like, he's like, we have to get to him. He's 6 miles that way, and he just like pulls this number out of his ass, like he wouldn't possibly know that, but he just says that, and you're like, okay. And not even he doesn't. That's actually not even the point where he points. He just says it out loud, and then later on, there's a part where they're trying to like get the scientist nerds or whatever to the boat before them because they have to double back to save Kong, and they're like, you just have to go that way, and like it's just a hilarious shot of like Tom Hiddleston just like looking at the camera and just like he puts his hand toward the camera and says, oh, it's just that way, but it's just like so vague, and it's like, yeah, whatever, it doesn't matter because it's like it's a popcorn blockbuster movie, but it's like it's just shit, and nonetheless, like I don't have to accept this just because it's this type of movie. And then there's like the one line too where it's like the Asian seismologist. She says something about like these seismological readings, they're extraordinary or something like that. And it's just like, oh, no one says this. No one talks like that.
They didn't even take the time to just Google like a phrase for like seismology or anything. It's just like these seismological readings are incredible. Yeah. And it's just like a pause, and it's like, what do you mean incredible? Like they couldn't even look up like if too high was a thing or too low was a thing, because like she could have said that.
Well, I guess it's the whole thing of like building the suspense of why they're really on the island and the fact that it's a hollow earth underneath.
Yeah, but stupid. So is that your take on Skull Island?
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
So for me, I was exactly the same as you are coming out of it. Since then, I think I don't know if it's just because of like other people like talking about how much quote unquote fun it is. It's like it's kind of like warmed on me a little bit, but I still don't think it's a good movie like by any rights. Like that, like I said, that Godzilla movie, I actually like that movie. I think it's good. This one I don't think is good. I like all the monster stuff. Like obviously, I like that. It's super cool. The problem with this movie and the problem with Warner Brothers in general is they can't find a fucking screenwriter worth anything at all. Like they dump all this money into huge celebrities. Like they got fucking Sam L. Jackson, Brie Larson, John C. Reilly, John Goodman, but they couldn't hire a decent fucking screenwriter. And so I looked it up. This movie has 4 writing credits, Jarrett. 4 people wrote this movie, and a lot of them like are attached to actually decent movies. Like the guy who wrote Nightcrawler has like the main writing part on this. So it's like, well, Nightcrawler's an awesome movie, and they all had a part of like Real Steel and stuff like that. And it's like, well, I thought Real Steel was okay, but they also have bad movies too. And it's just like 4 fucking people wrote this movie, and just like all the characters suck, and the writing is just like, yeah, like if you're gonna go see this, you probably don't care a whole lot about like a really like deep plot and stuff. And like I think what it is the Godzilla movie came out and people had a big problem with like it was very like somber, and they were trying to like make metaphors for like these deep things, and people didn't like it. They're like, show us fucking Godzilla tearing shit up, and like that's all they heard for the last 3 years. So they're like, all right, well, we'll make this King Kong movie and we'll just show him tearing shit up, and we'll make the plot fucking irrelevant. Like, which like I don't know, I get it, I guess. Like maybe they were trying to make a B movie, but I feel like that's what it is.
The biggest talking point with the previous that Godzilla movie was Bryan Cranston was killed in like the first half hour. This is bullshit, and that's all I've still heard. Like I think in the theater that we were sitting in, there's people saying, they killed Bryan Cranston." I'm like, holy fuck, I don't even remember that. Who cares?
That's just the movie. Fucking get over it. Yeah. Like it's fine. Anyways, yeah. So I do think. I mean, if you just want mindless stuff, it's fine. But I don't know. I don't like the writing. I feel like Warner Brothers just hires really bad screenwriters for some reason. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like they're always in a rut. They're always chasing their tail. They're never getting hits, and it pisses me off. Why is it so hard to make movies, RJ?
It shouldn't be. No. Just hire a decent, like that's what I mean. They had like a decent director. They had a really good cast, and all they were missing was someone to fucking write the movie. That's it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because they split it up between 4 fucking people.
Oh, that's another stupid thing in this movie. The whole thing with like finding the the dog chain of like the dead soldier after like they find him in the field of bones and whatever.
Yeah.
And then like, we have to get my man. Actually, your man's dead. Here is his dog tag.
Yeah, and it's just like, you should have did that like 20 minutes ago, dude. And then and then there's that scene with Tom Hiddleston with the gas mask. He's like, "Give me your sword," but he just takes John C. Reilly's only fucking weapon to defend himself do nothing.
Because some asshole thought, "Oh man, it will be so badass to have him running through this like gassy like King Kong grave, and he's wearing a gas mask with a Japanese sword. Won't that be so cool?" And it's just like so cool. It's so try hard. It's like what I imagine that movie Sucker Punch is like watching. Just trying so hard.
You've never seen that?
No.
Okay, well, one day I'll make you watch that. But
nope.
But for now, yeah, Skull Island, meh.
Meh. Meh. Yeah. So, Mighty Joe Young.
Hey, Jared, do you know what the best King Kong movie is?
It isn't King Kong?
Mighty Joe Young is the best King Kong movie.
Whoa.
Absolutely.
Because it doesn't have Carl Denham in it?
It has actually the actor who played Carl Denham is in this movie,
right?
As the Carl Denham type. So after all of these Kong movies, I watched Mighty Joe Young, and it absolutely just fucking like it dazzled me. I thought it was fucking great. It's better than King Kong, I think. It has Ray Harryhausen doing that animation, so everything, it looks fucking great. I thought the story was better. I liked it a lot more, and I just think it's a better movie. Like, I could go into like specific details, but I think Mighty Joe Young is like out of all of these things because it's kind of a rip off. Like they even do a thing later in the movie where there's like a stage show with Joe. Like the gorilla, and they're actually like using scenes from the King Kong movie as like the stage show.
Yeah.
So like just really briefly, like Mighty Joe Young is about an actual gorilla from Africa.
Yeah.
And a lady like a little girl who takes him in as a baby and raises him. And so it's just like the girl and Mighty Joe Young, and they like go to Hollywood basically. Yeah, I don't know, man. I thought Mighty Joe Young was fucking fantastic. Like, I think everybody should watch that. Watch King Kong first, and then if you're interested at all, you can watch a couple of the sequels, like 2, maybe 76 King Kong, and then like maybe one other one, like King Kong versus Godzilla or something, and then watch Mighty Joe Young.
Did you ever watch the 1998 remake of sorts?
With Charlize Theron?
And Bill Paxton?
That fucker. I think I've seen it, but I don't remember it at all.
Letterboxd says you have.
Okay, well, I had enough confidence to say I had watched it. I think that's like a movie my grandparents had, like drop, but the one with the Bill Murray with the elephant. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
where they
Operation
like
Dumbo Drop.
Is that the one with Bill Murray?
No, or maybe that's not with Bill Murray. Bigger than life.
Yeah, maybe. So like my grandparents had like a lot of movies like that with like buddy cop person animal movies, just like Turner and Hooch, which I've already said is like one of my favorite movies. But
yeah,
so I know they had Mighty Joe Young, and I'm pretty sure I've seen it, but I don't remember it at all.
Huh.
But no, yeah, I thought this movie is fucking amazing, man. Like, I'm overselling it now, but I think everyone should watch it. Like, you should watch it.
Yeah, I didn't realize you had rated it so highly. I think I totally missed on that.
I thought it was great. I loved it.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I'd heard it was good, but I didn't think it was that good, as you're telling me here.
It's that good, man. It's that good. Everything about it is good. There was almost nothing I didn't like. The only scenes that I didn't like, and this is just my personal gripe, which is old hat by now, and I know everyone's sick of it, but there's scenes where there's real lions in it, and they're getting tossed around. Like, because there's scenes where Joe is fighting like lions, and so it's really good effect where they mix like stop motion, where like a stop motion lion will jump on Joe, and he'll like grab it and throw it, and then in the next scene you see the lion land, but it's a real fucking lion. And I was just like, I was like, that's a little gross. But No, they did it. I think they actually did a really good job to like try to keep that stuff minimal, like use the real Mayans scarcely, and then I don't know, man. It was wicked. I really liked it, and you feel super sad in the same way that you do with the King Kong, and you actually like sympathize with the character. Like that's the big thing why I actually liked it is you really start to like care for Joe Young, whereas in like King Kong you do, but like the whole basis of like that stuff is like he has this like connection with some random lady and you're like, oh, it like humanizes him. But in Joe Young, like he's his own character and you're like you feel for him in a different way. Okay. I don't know, man. It's wicked. I think you should watch it. I think everybody should watch it.
Well, I think what people are really wondering though is the Bill Murray elephant movie that was larger than life. From 96, and Operation Dumbo Drop, which is from 1995, which is fitting that we're talking about it because it is set during the Vietnam War.
Well, there you go.
Produced by Disney.
Yeah, my grandparents owned both of those movies, and I watched them both.
Of course.
So there you go, man. But yeah. Best King Kong movies, Mighty Joe Young.
Mm-hmm. I guess for my other like non-Kong movie, I'll just throw it real quick, is Mighty Peking Man from old 1976. It was Shaw Brothers' attempt to cash in on the promise of those Kong bucks coming from Dino De Laurentiis in America. So they made their own cheapo Chinese knockoff Hong Kong
Fooey?
Not even, yeah. I don't even know what to say about this movie. It's ridiculous. It's like fine to watch. God, how does the plot go? Oh, I think it's like Chinese guys are going to like India, like where they've heard there's like a giant ape to go capture, and they go okay, and they go traverse landscape to go do so. So they drive and go get him, and they show up, and sure enough, yep, there's a giant gargantuan Mighty Peking Man gorilla man who just like hangs out and lives in the city or in this village, kind of acts up every once in a while, but turns out that he's been raising this like beautiful blonde woman who's plane crashed when she was a child. Her parents were dead, and so Mighty Peking Man has been raising her this whole time. And so we get to see this Chinese man fulfill his wishes of like being with a beautiful blonde white woman. And then of course she kind of gets tricked by a Carl Denham like promoter to bring Mighty Peking Man back to Hong Kong to promote things and make money off of him, and Peking Man turns. It's just it's exactly, I mean, it's super cheap, like it's like bottom of the barrel. I think the one thing I still remember about it is of course the beautiful buxom blonde, she gets bit by a snake in her like inner thigh, so of course we get a scene where like the guy gets to suck poison out from her wound.
Nice.
So that movie's real class. Then the rest of the movies I was looking at, I'm like, I don't really want to watch any of these things. These Kong movies are barely good enough on their own, so I don't want to put more time into it than I have to.
Well, I'm glad I didn't watch it then.
Yep, that's fine. I mean, I don't know. Yes, it's skippable.
We did enough.
Yes, we did enough. But hey, I don't want to leave people off without talking about who hates King Kong 1933.
Chumps.
Cosmic Monkey. Cosmic Monkey.
Oh.
1 star. It's unbelievably racist and misogynist. The acting is wooden, the screams grating, the fight scenes repetitive, the special effects hilariously dated, the camera work stale, and the story boring and nonsensical. Why build a wall with a giant gorilla-sized gate in it? Why not just build a wall with tiny human-sized gates in it so Kong can't smash his way through? How did Kong know exactly which building Anne was in, but not which room? Will Denham be charged with criminal negligence? I don't think giant gorilla rampage is covered on most insurance policies, so who's going to pay for all the repairs? If this film wasn't so technologically groundbreaking and influential, it would be forgotten as just another terrible Z-rate fantasy film, maybe only remembered for once being featured on an episode of Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Oh, fuck off. That guy's got some sort of personal gripe with this. I bet he's like an animator and like can't do stuff as good.
Yeah.
Nobody has ever. Yeah, nobody has ever said the effects were bad. And when you start picking apart a movie, it's like, why do this when you could do that? That's like Monday morning quarterbacking, man. Don't pull that shit. That's stupid. That's dumb.
Nora gave this 1.5 stars. Racist depictions of every non-white character? Check. Ideology that non-Western cultures are primitive and uncivilized? Check. Lots of misogyny? Check. Actual words from the love scene of the movie. I love you. Why, Jack, you hate women. The score is worth 1.5 stars. Everything else is pretty much garbage. Or, sorry, the score is worth 1.5 stars. Also, how the fuck did they build a raft so quickly to bring Kong back to New York? Like, he was just asleep the whole time? You can't just skip something like this that seems so complicated and just be like, oh, yeah, Carl Denham built these carbon steel whatever chains, and now King Kong is in New York, I guess. The wonders of technology. I hate this movie.
I hate this lady.
Yeah. Nora.
Yeah, I think it's totally good. Works in this movie to skip that scene. But people, it seems like the big thing is like misogyny, racism. But hey, do you know what people are like in 1933? They were misogynistic and racist.
Big time racists. Well, so
that's just how it was.
The one thing, I mean, like, there's the reading we could throw out there of like the Kong thing, where it's like, oh, it's a story about like white guys that come to a island and they bring like the big black man in chains to be exhibited, and it's like, oh yeah, but it's like, I mean, he's super sympathetic. I think it's like there's like definitely that reading there, but I don't think it's like in this like really bad way. I think in some ways they would have probably been somewhere in the back of their mind going, yeah, I think that's what we're doing. So I don't know. The idea that's like, and it's like, yeah, I mean, the savages, as you've called them. I mean, yeah, that was kind of like 1933 filmmaking. People should check out Tarzan. It's got kind of the same stuff going on, but I mean, it's pulpy action stuff of the time, and I mean, you're doing your disservice if you think that should withhold these movies from being kind of entertaining at the same time. At least I can. I'm privileged though, RJ.
Yes, you are.
Yep.
All that Arby's you eat has made you a white privileged male.
That's right. One more 1.5 star review here. Yes, I recognize the historical importance of this film, but I can't say that I enjoyed it. Random notes. Again, I realize this was made during a vastly different era, but there are a few cringy moments that skew towards the racist side of things. A lot more people die in this than I remember, and fairly graphically. Kind of a stark contrast to the modern blockbuster, where mass destruction is commonplace, but scenes depicting actual loss of life are nearly invisible. Kong sounds like he's got some indigestion going on.
That's all dumb.
Trash.
That's all dumb to say all that stuff because, you know what today's mass blockbusters that don't show death are missing? Showing death. Because then what's the point? It's toothless. It's dumb.
Garbage.
These people are dumb, Jarrett.
Yep. Thickos. Yep. Well, I'm tired.
Me too.
Yep. So after the break, RJ is going to carry me up a side of the building and die horribly.
Just like every week, man.
Because, as they say, beauty killed the beast.